Chip Kelly does not want to be the coach at UCLA. I think we have determined this with quite a bit of authority. It came to the public eye that just last week that Charles Kelly, the head coach at UCLA, had in fact interviewed for both the Raiders and Commanders OC jobs.
Which, neither which look great, although the Commanders might be okay.
And then to throw, I think, people off the scent, Ben Solak tweeted yesterday, Oregon football coach Chip Kelly has interviewed for the Seahawks offensive coordinator
That's
job.
right up there with his loins tweet a couple years ago.
The Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Loins.
Yeah. So.
But Chip Kelly now has interviewed for 3 vacant offensive coordinator jobs in the NFL while currently holding the head coaching job at UCLA, which is making a move to the Big Ten next year.
This is certainly even more brazen than when Harbaugh was kind of like, will he, won't he last year with the Vikings while still at Michigan? Because there was some, maybe Harbaugh will go. Maybe he'll stay. The Chip's just like, please, God, hire me. Please now. I don't want to deal with college football anymore. I just want to football.
Well, in this, like Jeff Hafley, who was at Boston College up until last week, he said he left Boston College as the head coach because he didn't want to put up with everything that it is to be a head coach in college football now. NIL, recruiting your own team to stay there year round because of the transfer portal. He just said it became less and less about being a football coach and more about being in management of like it being a GM or a team president in an NFL team, and he just wanted to go back to coaching football. And I see Chip Kelly 100% being that guy.
We talked about this last week with kind of the changing ideology of being a coach and how that functions, not only in college, but in the NFL as well, where you're seeing some potential coaches will just say, you know what, I'm going to sit this cycle out because they're looking at things and going, no longer is it about just there's a shortage of these jobs, only X amount of these exists, blah, 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 blah. You're seeing coaches be hesitant to make certain moves because they understand the ramifications of being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong leadership or the wrong situation. People aren't falling over themselves to take these jobs anymore and then failing, which I think is really interesting because I think it's going to cause a bit of a shift in how coordinators on both sides of the ball are viewed going forward. I think you're going to see more lifetime coordinators be a thing again, like we saw 15, 20 years ago. You know, the Monty Kiffins of the world who were like, nah, I'm good. I like sitting the Aliotis of the world where you're just like, nah, I'm good. I'm perfectly fine sitting up here in the box away from everything, just footballing.
And if the right job comes along, maybe they do take it, but they're okay with that lot. And I think that having that awareness, it's
a good thing.
It's a great thing.
It's good for the game, to be honest.
And there need to be more coordinators. And look, everybody, you should want to, when you're hiring guys for your staff, have motivated people.
Sure. People
that want to be great at what they do. But this gets lost in a lot of it. Like, there's weird hiring cycles. We talked about this with Dan Campbell yesterday, not Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel yesterday, where it's like, he's too big. You know, it's like,
that's talking yourself out of a good coach because you're dumb.
That's stupid.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people will do with a coordinator. It's like, well, what are the motivations? Well, if you want to be a great head coordinator, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Be the best at that. And I think where we're looking at with head coaches now in college football, you do have to be a manager. And management is part of the game.
Delegation.
More so than anything else.
More than ever.
If you ever see like any of these head coaches now, like they will be bouncing. It's not like you have a head coach who focuses on one side of the ball or the other. They just kind of bounce around practice because in meeting rooms, you'll see guys, whether it's Dan Lanning or Jonathan Smith, even though Jonathan Smith's offensive guy, they bounce around to all of the different meeting rooms to have a presence in all of them. So every player sees that awareness and you're there, but also you are in management of each side of the ball, each position group, and how everything is running and operating smoothly. I think what we're going to see is fewer and fewer of the head coaches that call plays on either side of the
You
ball.
become CEO. That's what you become.
It's too much, man.
You've got to be out in front of the media. You've got to do glad handing with the boosters. You've got to do recruiting visits. You've got to sign something up or work something out with the NIL and compliance office. It's the list of things you have to cover before you get to the football is significantly more. It's
way more.
You're doing all of the other stuff before you football. And that's what I'm saying. It's becoming so much more of a CEO job where you're doing the C-suite executive stuff, the glad handing, the handshake deals, the negotiations, the discussions. You're not down there with the plant managers.
And I think that this is where you will see that shift of guys like you were saying, being okay with being a coordinator their entire life, because you get into football and you love football because of the scheme, the X's and O's, the game within the game, right? That chess match that we always hear about. And fewer and further between are the guys who want to deal with everything else. And Chip Kelly
never wanted to deal with it.
He's never been a great recruiter, but he has always squeezed the most out of the talent that he's gotten. It's been pretty damn good squeeze that he's gotten. And I applaud guys that have that awareness and just be like, no, this ain't for me anymore. I just want to focus on football. Because if you're a guy like Chip Kelly, what else do you have to prove, right?
No.
He has coached in the NFL as a head coach twice, not too much success. He has been a coach that led a team to a national championship game from the University of Oregon, of all places, where people thought that was going to be a pipe dream. In their talent, they had a really damn good team. It wasn't like they were loaded with 4- and 5-star guys. He squeezed and maximized.
He revolutionized college football.
And I think for Seahawk fans that are apprehensive about Chip running an offense, he's not running the team. That's Mike McDonald's team. I think that Chip Kelly, his offense does work in the NFL. He has tailored it to the NFL. His offense was never the issue in Philadelphia. It was in San Francisco because they were just bad. They were just really bad.
In Philadelphia, the problem was it wasn't complimentary football.
In this, if he is going to be a guy, and his team just quit on him because he's checking their pee every week, or I think every day. He had them pee and checking their hydration. He had his thumb too hard on the scale. When you're a coordinator, not your job.
Don't got to worry about that. Let me call them plays.
How does Mike McDonald want this team run? All right, good. You run this team that way. I'll focus on the X's and O's. I think Chip Kelly would be a good hire, especially in a time now. We talked about this with the head coaching searches. Why aren't more offensive guys getting head coaching jobs? Well, there's not a lot. All of those head coaching brain trusts have been pillaged, and it's a lot harder now to get and find those guys. Chip Kelly is, of the guys that are available right now, one of the best offensive minds that you could get out there.
Look, let Chip Kelly call plays and go parachuting over Normandy.
Yeah. And to this text, why don't teams have a separate coach and manager? And the manager would be the sort of the CEO person. We may be...
We're heading down that path.
Actually, we already do have them. You have directors of football operations. You have chief operating officers of football programs where they do deal with a lot of that stuff. But make no mistake about it, the head coach is the face of the program, and that's who it's going to be.
Yeah,
I mean...
And there's going to be eventually, I think you're going to see like associate head coaches that are solely for the legalese and the paperwork and everything that's going to come around as Congress gets more and more involved.